Welcome,
We took a week
everybody.
off. Why? Because I went to Los Angeles. Joe, how was it to have me in your house? Kind of, sort of in your house.
Loved it. Yeah. Kids were like, where
Oh,
are
you
those
guys saw
people
each
from?
other.
Yeah,
Dude,
saw each other every
dude,
day.
Oh,
yeah,
shit.
every
Nice.
day for like 5 days straight. And what did the kids
Nice.
say, Joe? You said?
They were just like, who are those people?
Who did you have with you?
On my side, I had
Yeah.
my fiance with me,
Oh, cool.
and then Joe has a back house.
Yes.
Siri is talking to me. Joe has a back house, and I I was like Kato Kalin for like 5 days or whatever.
That's awesome.
That was
I didn't
fun.
realize that. That's really fun.
I asked, I talked to Andrew because I was with Andrew Chen, who lives in Los Angeles and who is an investor of both mine and Joe's. And I have an attitude with entrepreneurs specifically, like, because, when I stay at my buddy's house that I know from when I'm 15 and he has 2 kids and it's pretty cramped and all those things, like, probably no, right?
No.
But like all of us can afford to stay in hotels, fancy hotels, even if we want to. But I specifically told Andrew, I said, build relationships
Yeah,
by
you
being
told-
in
It's so
close,
true.
cramped quarters, like kind of with people. So would I have stayed in Joe's actual house? Actually, maybe I would have, or maybe I would now. Do we know each other
Maybe
a
he
little
would
bit
not
better?
have wanted you to.
Yeah, maybe not.
That's
But
probably the more realistic
to be Kato
scenario.
Kalin in the back house works. And these entrepreneur networks, first of all, are fun.
Yeah.
And second of all, are really cool to have because you feel like you have peers, right?
Right. So this show, are we going to do the topic that we talked about?
We definitely can. Yeah, it's a good team to do it for, actually.
Yeah. So I don't know. Do you want to start it off? Are we going to do me? We're going to do my company.
I think we should do a series, and we can do them in sequence, or we could do them kind of like every little while, and
Okay.
we can talk about, because here we each have, in some cases, explosive failures,
Yes.
in some cases, quiet failures, and in some cases, just okay kind of outcome, let's say,
Yep.
from previous companies. And we're all operating again at, I think, a pretty much higher level, I would
Yeah.
say, than
Yeah.
we were. In my case, 2015, let's say, and you in like 20, same thing, around 2015.
Yep.
And so we're going to spend some time digging into what worked, what didn't work, specifically for one founder here in the panel. And we're going to start with you. And so once you set the stage for us, Kevin,
Yeah.
by talking, and we're operators that weren't in your business, but know something about your type of business for sure.
Yeah.
And so set the stage for us about the previous company that you ran that, from my perspective, was the hottest company on the earth when I started my last business.
Except for Uber. We're number 2.
Right.
Uber.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
We missed Uber, but
Yeah.
after that. Yeah.
So it was Shyp with a Y. And yeah, this was in 2015, 2014 when we founded the company, something like that. And this was the whole Mark Andreessen, your phone is the remote control of the world, bringing kind of everything to you in a physical sense. And so you had Uber, you had on-demand laundry, you had on-demand basically everything, also on-demand food, which happened to actually work. And we were on-demand shipping. And so we had a really amazing product. And the way I'll kind of even start like how it started out, it was just me and my co-founder. We had this idea of press a button, we'd come to you in 20 minutes, we'd pick up whatever you wanted to ship. We'd take it back to some central location, package it up for you, and then send it to one of the major carriers like UPS or FedEx. And then we just have a very seamless process through an app that you could track it. You get your price right away. And it was just kind of like, we didn't envision it from the beginning as a magical experience. And the early days, it was a web app, and it definitely was not magical, but it was enough to raise, I think that we raised $2.2 million on that.
Which felt good at the time.
it felt good at the time. And this is when me and my co-founder were working out of we started living together in San Francisco. This was in, where is it? Hayes Valley. We also were Airbnb-ing our apartment out because we had no money. We actually just previously got fired from our jobs because our boss found out that we were building Shyp, who is he's like one of my best friends to this day. I actually rehired him at Shyp. There's a funny story there. But it was just initially hustling. So we did actually, because we didn't have really a good track record or anything to show. So we built something. We applied to YC, we got rejected. And then we just got our first angel checks. And we're operating. It's actually somebody that I really hate, so I'm definitely not going to tell them. They turned out to be one of the worst investors that I've ever worked with. But some of the early investors, Tim Ferriss is one of our probably earliest investors. We also had Homebrew invest as well, and a number of other really cool angel investors. And it turned from us operating out of our garage and doing basically every day, bringing packages down to the USPS and shipping them off for people. Actually, our first company that we started to work with was Soylent. I'm sure you guys remember Soylent. Yeah. So I'll tell you a story about that too. They were a super small startup. They actually had their initial batch that they made. They were like literally scooping it out of like containers into like bags.
Dude, this is so disgusting.
And it was in the Tenderloin, so it was like sketchy as fuck. Gross. And then we would ship it out. But these are like super early adopters. And so that was like one of our first customers. And then after we closed hold
on a second. I was Canadian. I know about the product. It was hot as shit, but I never used it. Joe, you used it, or you at least
definitely.
were a Klout next to people that had used it. Joe, just tell people what Shyp was like when you had the experience, when you encountered the brand or the app or whatever.
It was amazing. It really was magical. And I'm definitely one of those people who will leave something sitting on the kitchen table for like 2 months that I need to ship because I don't, like I'm not going to the UPS store, FedEx, and I don't have the box, I don't have the packing material, and I don't know how to do this in a way that won't break it, and all the things. And to be able to like take a picture with the app, or, summon somebody, and they're there so quickly, and they were always really cool and friendly, and then it just happened. Like, it was this magical thing. So we used it a bunch, and really, really loved the service.
Okay, that's a super good intro. Many people who are listening to this might be starting YC now. I know we have like a YC contingent of people that listen. And so maybe they were never there.
Right.
But the experience was the definition of like that Peter Thiel thing that people say 10x in terms of experience or 10x in terms of technology.
Right.
That it was from the previous experience, which was a fragmented, difficult nightmare.
Yeah. And it was before, like, it was not only the technology was really bad. So if you wanted to ship something, like you'd either have to go to a UPS store or FedEx store, or you'd have to try to coordinate a pickup or print a label and then get a box. So it was like, not only it was the digital side of things, so it was a really slick designed app, but also like it kind of married to like the physical component of and also we did some crazy shit. Like we like drop tested TVs, like we sold TVs on eBay. You could sell things like bicycles. Like we got really deep on the kind of the packaging component as we later scaled up the company. But early days it was pretty manual. It was just hiring some kind of even TaskRabbit type people, and in a very small warehouse that was also our office, and then just kind of scaling it up. And I think that's also a lesson. Like, it was very much for us, it was like incremental improvements, and then all of a sudden we had hundreds of employees in like 6
You're
different.
Going too fast. Okay.
I'm gonna bring it back. I'm gonna bring it back.
You're gonna bring it back. Okay, bring it back. Okay, keep going. Go on.
But like it's just it kind of blew up into this thing, but
Mhm.
it was very much, it was like we were doing this out of our house basement. Then we got a small office space that also had like a garage type area.
Mm.
And then we leased our first warehouse in the Bayview. And then it was just like we would continue to iterate on everything, and then kind of raise more money and hire more people, and then also I think get more notoriety. I think one of the things that was extra special about us is that we grew through organic, but also I'd say that press was like actually
Yeah.
our one of our biggest channels,
Mhm.
because we were so novel at the time. It was just like we'd get written up about from everybody.
Yeah.
And that's just not something that you can do today.
So Mark Andreessen had talked about this remote control for the real world, which I was very instrumental in that phase of the internet for sure. And Uber was taking off, and there were like a couple of adjacent things, but I almost feel like Shyp was the number 2 thing for a period, which was really going to prove out, was the entire world going to become a going to
Right.
be remote controlled via your phone?
Right.
And it was just assumed that the answer was yes at that time.
Right.
And so people would, there were like 10 different laundry startups in New York City that were on demand laundry startups, and probably 5 in San Francisco. And there were 5 different parking companies that would just
do you remember the
bring.
parking? What was the parking company called?
Well, they were
Lux
like,
was
there
one.
was the pink one,
Lux
the
was
yellow
one.
one,
Yeah.
the blue one.
Explain how it worked. It was
Yeah.
it was crazy.
Yeah, Joe, go ahead.
The way I remembered it, and this is from an LA perspective, I was living here by that point, was, parts of town or certain events that were difficult parking. You could basically like summons a Lux caretaker for your car that would show up where you needed to be, and you would step out of the car and they would get in, and it was like
It's
valet parking
crazy.
for the world.
Yeah.
But it was so cool because I remember with the app is that you entered in the destination and it tracked when you were going to be there, and they'd meet you right at that time. And
Yeah.
it was just like, holy shit, this is insane.
Mm-hmm. And
Super-
so it really felt that way, definitely in San Francisco, in New York, even like everywhere, all the way up to Canada where I was. It felt like the world was turned, like the mobile phone was going to be, obviously it's big, but big in a real world sense, much
Right.
more than it actually turned out to be. So now you're getting this round of funding. Is there like, so press starts to happen because people are talking
Yeah.
about this all the time.
Yeah.
And when they experience it, it actually is magic.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so the round of angel funding, is it easy? Is it hard? Like, walk us through that phase, or the first meaningful round.
It just it was hard initially to get traction. I think I've told this story on this podcast before, but I'll say it again. The breakout was a cold email that I sent to Naval
Mhm.
when he was basically, it was a TechCrunch Disrupts panel that he was on, and he basically explained the company that we're building, and I'm just like, hey, we're building this. He's like, all right, come into the Angelus office. And that's when we got our syndicate started, and then that's when it turned into a Tim Ferriss syndicate, and like Tim Ferriss has this crazy
Right.
following. And then after that, the round was very easy. But like for the first, probably, I don't know, like we weren't making any money. So like the first 50K felt like, oh my God, we could breathe now. Like
Sure.
we just need to pay for our rent, and that's really all we need to pay for.
This is a shoestring company to the max.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. And then we got Tim Ferriss Syndicate, and the Homebrew joined, and then we got a number of awesome angel investors to join, and it came together relatively quickly after you get that initial kind of momentum.
So now you've got 2.2 million, is what I believe I heard. And now here is the hype cycle a little bit begins. I think people are looking for the next Uber out there in the world.
They
also,
are.
right? And
They are.
they're like, Uber is amazing. I don't even remember if Lyft was out at that time with the mustaches on the cars. For those of you that may not remember this or never experienced it, there were mustaches on every 1 in 20 cars
Yeah.
to try and compete with Uber from an awareness standpoint. I think they even did it in Los Angeles and other places. So it really was like money was starting to flow into this. And the reasoning was, oh my God, look at this Uber thing. It is crazy how fast it's growing. It's everywhere. Lord knows I was influenced by it. And so now what happens to your business as a result of both your progress, but also like what's happening out there in tech more broadly?
So we were really excited, and growth was really strong.
Mhm.
And I can't remember how much we were making.
Give an idea.
I don't know, maybe like 500K, like in gross revenue annualized or something like that.
Okay. So it goes from
gross
50 to
revenue run rate.
500K.
Yeah, but like the growth rate was pretty high. And then we launched. This was actually a mistake, but we actually launched in New York. Even so, only with 2.2 million, we launched in New York before we raised our next round.
Yeah.
And then because we kind of thought there was just like, this is just follow the Uber playbook. Like we gotta somebody else is going to be on our tail, and we got to go as fast as we can.
We got to get to scale.
We got to get a scale, and so we should just open up warehouses everywhere. And like warehouses, there's leases attached to those, and you have to hire people.
I know.
And like we had a very unprofitable business. Like every single transaction cost us more money.
Right.
So like,
oh wait, cost you more money rather than
because
less.
we were negative gross margin. Yeah. So it cost it cost us money for every new transaction that we had. So and at that point, like I didn't even know what like a P&L was. Like,
I hear you.
I would look to see what our burn was, but I was always just like, we'll build to raise the next round really quickly. There's just so much interest in everything, and we just kind of got lucky. And our next investor, which both of you probably know, who actually led the Series B for Uber, was Sherman Pishvar.
Okay.
At that point,
okay. Yes.
At that point, Sherpa Ventures.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So I just setting the scene for this. So Sherman Pishvar led the Series B at Menlo, and I know because Menlo led my
Uber,
Series C. Of Uber, yeah.
Yes.
And Sherman, these were my business partners for a time. So there's some delicateness that I want to sort of have here, but like they paid a very high price at the Series B,
right?
Menlo, and they were like, this is the craziest deal we've ever done, and Travis specifically chose Menlo because they would pay a crazy high price.
Yep,
and Sherman went to bat for it. Sherman, who later I think sexually harassed like a lot of people in an elevator and other places, and is since really not on the map of tech, at the time was a kind of
allegedly,
kingmaker.
To be clear.
Allegedly, yes. Allegedly. Excuse me. I was not there. I don't know what happened. But he was a kingmaker in a way, because he had made Uber at this $25 million round, and he led your round right there at Sherman.
Yeah, and it was kind of surreal because I got invited. Didn't really. I think I had one meeting with him before, and then he invited me to his house. And I don't know if you guys have ever been to any of Sherman's parties, but like he has this he had this crazy house in San Francisco overlooking like every part of the bay. Like you could see both bridges, and it was just like rooftop patios and everything. And he invited me up there, and he's like, yeah, we want to do your guys' series A. And so we didn't actually even, I don't even think we shopped the deal at all. It was just like $10 million deal, fair valuation. He wanted to get it done because
tell us the valuation, Kevin.
I'm just trying to think what it was at that time. Was it like, I want to say it was like 35 or 30 or 35 million, which in today's standards is for a Series A is well, I guess in today's standards that maybe is more realistic. And then we kind of then just started, we're like, okay, now we're in mass like Like now we have to go open up a shitload of warehouses.
$10 million when this happens to you is, for the first time, is
Yes.
an insane amount of money. Joe, do you remember when this happened? This was starting to feel like the phase where Shyp was going to be the next Uber. I don't know if you felt this way.
Oh, definitely. And, I know we were in a similar world. I was running Joymode then, and we had this real world component with warehouses and a city by city and push a button and things come to you. So we were following them closely and learning as much as we could and kind of trying to match ourselves to growth trajectories and stories and things like that.
I was going to ask you, you must have seen some parallels watching Shyp with Joymode. I also want to ask you from a warehouse standpoint, and Kevin, of course, I'll return to you. But Joe, what was it like to manage like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of objects in a warehouse, right? Like, what was that like to you?
In some ways, it was amazing because, having built in purely digital formats historically, it was really cool to have something physical and see real work being done. And on the busy day, I would go drive a truck and the team would go in the warehouse and clean and set things up. And it was fun that I would get the text message, multiple times a day from friends who saw our trucks around the city. And that kind of just realness was really exciting. But the realness got, less fun when just, there were just a lot of challenges. And like, we hit a point where we had kind of maximized the amount we could serve out of our warehouse. And the bottleneck was how many doors were on the warehouse. And you can't throw servers at that, and getting a new warehouse is not a trivial thing. And so it just came with real challenges. But it was a cool experience. I miss it, frankly, though.
Yeah, the real world, it's true. There was this nice feeling, Kevin. You interacted with other people's stuff. Joe, you interacted with your own. At Breather, of course, I interacted with my own as well. And so I'm wondering if you had the same kind of magic feeling of stuff is leaving my warehouse, stuff is coming in, like so real stuff.
It was so cool. And also like, because we were able to innovate on a lot of like the packaging. So we had this $500,000, we leased it. We didn't actually buy it. It was a $500,000 like packaging machine that you entered in the dimensions and the type of box that you wanted to create. And it would basically just take like raw corrugate and just like cut it up and you'd fold it.
Yeah.
It was a really cool piece of technology. We also were playing with a lot of other like automated scanning technology in the warehouse. And we would have like different processes on like, okay, when we went and picked up your stuff, we had to put it in some sort of bag. And this actually was like quite innovative because like normally things need to be boxed up. So I was like, I think this was my idea, but it was like, why don't we just put it in like a bag that you can like have like a cord that you can just pull it to close it up, and it just has like a QR code on it. And so when the person comes to your house, it's like, okay, this item is going to this person. Okay, put it in this bag, scan it. Okay, now you could basically mix all of these different bags within a courier's vehicle. We had a combination of other people's vehicles, but also we had Shyp branded vans, which definitely was a mistake because that's also more leased things that you don't want to have. But it was cool to see them driving around. And we just got to really play around and be innovative on not only the physical or the digital side of things. Like I think that we did some really cool stuff with like the actual app. We also built our own routing system as well. So we're like, and this is the time before there were like SaaS product offerings that would do this for you. Yep. So we had to rebuild the same thing that Doordash had to build basically. And then we also, the third technology piece, we actually had to build our warehouse management system. I'm sure that's similar to you, Joe. I don't know if you guys built something.
Yeah, we built our WMS. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. So many different things that were interacting on like the physical and digital side. And it was really fun because we were able to innovate on a lot of those different things. And then we had this just like huge fan base that was just like every day it would be somebody who was just amazed by this. So taking a step back and talking about taking the money from Menlo, it was like, okay, we got to scale this thing. Like, and that was the sense of them being part of Uber, which Uber is a completely different business. They don't have warehouses. They don't have leases. They don't have any of that stuff.
There's a comment here, which is, this is a phase where everyone who runs a real world business, myself, Joe, Kevin, all the people on this call, we're trying to convince investors that these businesses should have software multiples. And even WeWork was being valued at a software business multiple.
Yep.
And theoretically, the reasoning behind this is that the market size for WeWork is so enormous. And to tell you the truth, I think it's not properly executed, but it actually still is. There are these businesses that have such gigantic market sizes that had never been touched by technology before, that it felt like shipping was going to be transformed. 0% of it was being touched by technology. Today, Amazon is 10% of all commerce, 10%, and it's only that much after all these years. Imagine the market size of a shipping software business, right? And so people were looking for reasons to say this is a tech company, and it wasn't even really questioned, even though you were shipping a bunch of stuff in the real world.
Yeah, and the reason that these businesses shouldn't be valued at that is because you could grow really quickly. Like you get these software multiples because your growth rate at scale, like it still kind of maintains itself. But like once you start scaling like atoms don't scale exponentially like bits do.
They have drag.
So you can, and we did have exponential growth until we didn't. And that's what happens with all of these businesses. They don't scale like a traditional software company. And so that's why they don't deserve the same sort of multiples. I think you definitely could have similar gross margins potentially on some of these businesses that touch physical objects, but I just don't think you could scale them that way. And that's why I think that you couldn't. But in my mind, like I convinced myself that you could, like, especially for us. So for Joe, you guys actually had to house physical objects. And like, as you grew, you had to have more items in your actual warehouse, right? So you naturally were going to have to grow your warehouses, get more warehouses. With our model, it was a little different because it's basically everything in one day is out that same day. And so we don't have to store anything. And so that's why I was thinking it's a much less asset heavy business, and that we would be able to scale better than kind of the traditional warehouse model that you just have to continue getting bigger and bigger. And that did turn out to be true. But our big problem was that we kind of ran out of people that needed to ship a lot of things.
Yeah. I was going to ask you, like, this business was scaling super, super fast. Was there a thesis that at some point, I mean, there must have been, but I'm curious about the details of it, that this was going to turn into positive unit economics? Because actually, like, Joymode probably was just CapEx, right? And it was just paying back that CapEx. So I bet the economics were solid. Breather, the economics were solid. But I'm curious about whether, Kevin, you just kept running on negative unit economics.
No. We got to positive.
So it was possible.
Okay. But we focused on that way too late. We chose scaling negatively, hoping that next round was going to be around the corner, versus really trying to focus on getting to positive unit economics. So some of the things that we did. So once we realized that we stopped. So here's the order of operations. We raised the $10 million. We expanded to, I think actually we went to Miami after New York, which is kind of a really odd choice. I don't know why we chose that. I think it was something, I can't remember why we did that. Really stupid move. But we eventually raised more money from Kleiner. This was our big round, $50 million. John Doerr joined our board. And all at that point, we probably were in 5 markets. and they all were relatively like newish. And this all happened within like 2 years. And
Wow.
so we hadn't yet reached like the ceiling of like the potential customers in most of the markets. San Francisco was always our best market, and you just have the
Right.
tech adoption is just so much higher here than anywhere else. And so when John joined the board, things were all looking really good. And everything was improving. Like with more volume, our gross margins shrunk. They weren't yet positive, but the thesis was, as we get more volume, our costs from our providers, so like UPS or FedEx, go lower, and then our efficiencies actually get higher through the number of actual pickups that we can do per hour per person. And that all tended to be true. It just, we kind of ran out of people that would use the service, and we just, growth started slowing. And I think that was probably like, I don't know, 3 or 6 months after John. I think we had like 1 or 2 good board meetings with John, and then it was just like, what's going on here, guys? Like,
so, okay, I'm just finishing Scott Cooper's book, The Secrets of Sand Hill Road, and there is a thing that happens where early on venture capitalists, they haven't seen that many good deals early in their career, and so they'll kind of like shoot their shot like pretty fast. But as a venture capitalist becomes more senior and has done more super amazing companies, they shoot their shot smaller and smaller amounts of time, and they want their shots on goal to improve what I would call their slugging average, which is the number of times they hit a home run.
Yep.
And so here you have John Doerr, who, am I right, was on the board of Google or some shit like this? Is that right?
First institutional investor in Google.
Yeah.
In Amazon.
Yeah.
In
it's almost crazy.
Yeah, one of the most like successful venture capitalists ever.
And I remember very
DoorDash
clearly. Also DoorDash, yeah. I was going to ask you about the DoorDash comparison. I remember very clearly the trajectory of Uber was 1.5 million off AngelList, 6 million from Benchmark.
Yep.
Then I believe 25 million from Menlo, and then it went on to infinity scale. Your scale of fundraising was faster than that.
It was.
Which is wild. Yeah. It was 2, 10, 50.
Yeah.
At like a just absurd valuation. So first of all, looking forward at it now and looking at the DoorDash stuff, like, and looking at Uber Eats and like these things are happening in the world.
Yeah.
Is there a part of you, I understand you're running a successful business now, I've seen the numbers, they're nice numbers. And, but do you feel like, fuck, that could have been me. This could have been me, this DoorDash thing.
No.
Or something. No, you don't. Okay. So talk to us about that.
We just didn't have, there's just not enough people that would ship frequently enough, right? You just can't make people all of a sudden change their behaviors that much. I would love to say that people will just start selling everything online, and we would have people using us like twice a week, but we just couldn't bend that curve. DoorDash did, however. So that's kind of similar, right? Like, people did not order in as much as they do now because it's so much easier, but also people eat 3 times a day, right?
Right.
So that makes, it's a lot larger versus us. So kind of continuing on in the story, it was, oh shit, we're not growing. Also, we're burning a lot of money. Operationally, also, we were hiring a shitload of people because that's what you do when you raise that much money. And so it was like, okay, we were trying to also like partner with eBay. We were very close to partnering with eBay and getting into like their app to be like, oh, click this to, and my advice for anybody looking at like a partnership to solve all of their issues, that never happens. It never happens. Even if it did happen, honestly, it would have probably not been nearly as big of an impact as we thought it was going to be. So we had to start getting more operationally profitable. So we started trying to do a lot of things in the warehouse, reduce costs, a lot of things for our drivers, and things were moving in the right direction. We also got sidetracked on a project and also at this time, I definitely did think that I was God as well, like raising the same, like you just look at us compared to
Sure.
like Uber, right?
Yeah.
And so like we would just do these like stupid projects that seem
Mhm.
cool, but they didn't actually equate to any growth. So
Yeah.
I was like, hey, wouldn't it be cool if like you didn't need to know anybody's shipping address? Like, what
Yeah.
happens if you could actually just ship to somebody's like Twitter handle or like their username or something like that?
I'm gonna say
Like,
I could see a VC eating this up. That said.
yeah, maybe like an early VC, but like an older VC is
Yeah.
like that's cool, but like is how is that going to increase your growth? Like
Sure.
it's just going to like what are you going to send more people gifts or maybe potentially like maybe a little bit, but I was convinced because I was like, oh, like there's going to be this like K factor of like people inviting
Right.
other people and like sending other people and all this. None of that turned out to be true.
Yeah.
We also went down another rabbit hole of creating like a completely software free version. So it'd basically be like, you can now print your shipping label a lot easier. And that was completely asset free, but there was already like 10 other competitors in that space.
Yeah.
And like ours was differentiated because maybe it was a little bit better designed, but it was not 10x better than anybody else. So like we didn't get like hardly any traction in that space. And so it was a lot of like trying a lot of different things and just getting kind of distracted. And then we started having to do layoffs and shutting down cities.
Okay, so now what I'm hearing from you is that actually the business was going well, quote unquote well.
Yeah.
But there was a fundamental misunderstanding of the TAM.
Yes.
Which is, okay, actually the number of people who need to ship with this level of, with this velocity is actually quite small. You were in that TAM because you were an early eBay power seller. Is that right, Kevin? And so then you would tell the story and people would be like, oh my God, people are going to ship everything this way. But I imagine the economics worked better the more you shipped with that individual customer, and they worked worse for the person who shipped once a year, like Joe with that thing sitting on his desk for 2 months.
True. Yeah. And we also, I did skip a step there. At the same time, I kind of envisioned the consumer was like the very first product. And like, that was kind of, it was a cool product, but like where we make all of our money was going to be like an SMB. And then eventually we try to figure out some sort of enterprise product, and eventually then kind of disrupt the FedExes and the UPSs of the world, which is like kind of looking at it back now, it doesn't make any sense. So we did build an SMB product that would like, if you were selling on Shopify or eBay, it would just like take all your stuff in and automatically sync it, and then we come pick it up. But it actually turns out that the highest volume shippers, they actually don't want you to come every single day. They want to actually store their shit in a warehouse somewhere and have you do it automatically. So and that's just not what we did. And so we were trying to go up market. We did not have a fit with SMBs. Some of them we did, but they were SMBs. If you guys like, they're notoriously very thick, like very hard to acquire. They churn really like a lot. They're a very difficult of a segment of customer to service profitably. And so we did have a little bit of a fit there, but what the TAM again wasn't big enough. And we couldn't figure out like an actual product that would like have the frequency of use. But we were continuing to try to do all those things at the same time, trying to get profitable. And I will say, and I know you probably don't want me to jump this far, but like as part of the profitability story, it was, okay, let's reel back some of these cities. Let's which is, it's kind of like the writing's on the wall at that point when you start like going backwards.
Closing a city.
Yeah, closing cities. Okay, we closed Miami because we just didn't have any volume there. And it's like, let's focus on like a couple cities and trying to get them profitable while we then work on this like other product to go up market even more. And yeah, that was kind of the next journey of the next part of the journey.
Joe,
Kevin, you mentioned, you had a couple good board meetings.
Yeah.
and then they got rocky. Like, what did that look like in the boardroom? Was it, you're showing graphs, and are they like flatlined that you just couldn't grow? It was just steady state, or was it actually declining? Or,
Steady.
what pressures were you getting?
It was steady, but steady's not
That is
growing.
dead. Yeah.
Steady's dead. Yeah.
Yes.
And we would try lots of different things, and consumers just really tough, as you know, Joe, right? Unless
Yeah.
you have people that are referring other people, it's just impossible. And we just kind of reached a saturation point in all of these markets that we had like regular users that would use us like on a regular cadence, but we just couldn't get any more in those cities. And because we had to, so the only other way to grow would be able to launch more cities, which would just be a stupid thing for us to do. And so we had to figure out to get profitable. I know a lot of the board wanted to see us try to sell to somebody. I couldn't envision that, just because like, who's going to take on all this operational burden and all this? So like, one of the benefits of having John Doerr on your board. So when we did have like a couple good board meetings, and then they weren't so good after that. And then it was kind of like, okay, we're kind of like in panic mode, like things are not going in the right direction. We still had a lot of money, not a lot, but probably like 15 million in the bank. And yeah, which is, but when you're burning so much, it's just
right. What's the burn at the highest point?
I think it was like 1.7 million a month.
USD. God.
Yeah. Yeah. It might have been close to 2. Yeah. So that's a lot. And
but, I mean, in your defense, and you don't need to be defended, but like in your defense, that is what the VCs wanted from you.
Yep.
They wanted a asymmetrical upside outcome.
Yep.
And John Doerr, who shot his shot with Amazon, Google, and Doordash and some other companies.
Yeah.
Thought you were.
Yeah.
And he's not dumb.
He's not.
The next UPS or whatever.
Yep. So another thing that I think that was a mistake throughout that process is we were trying to, I think we all thought that we had product market fit, but we had product fit. We didn't have like the we could spend $1 and make $1.50. We didn't have that. That's what I consider product market fit. And so another mistake that we made is that we started hiring more senior execs. Like, we started hiring senior execs. At that time, I was like, I want to focus just like on the product, and like that's my background, and on the engineering, and like I want to hire somebody to like work on all of the operations, and so basically hire a COO, and then a whole senior management team. So like people that are getting paid like I don't know, $500,000 a year, like those types of people. That turned out to probably be probably one of the nails in the coffin, because I think that when you get to that stage, the especially if you don't have product market fit, these types of people just aren't that innovative. They're
scalers.
They're very risk averse. They're good. If you hire good ones, they're good at taking something that's working and really scaling it. But we hired these people, and super expensive, and they help maybe do some cost savings, which helped a little bit, but like we just didn't have product market fit ultimately. There just wasn't enough people that we can get. So the next stages were shutting down all of the cities.
This was a decision. I want to be clear.
This was a decision, yeah.
You had not like run out of money, strictly speaking,
No.
although you saw the end. So slow-mo a little bit on that.
Yeah.
Of, hold on a second, I got some money in the bank. It's flattening. The Sherman Pishavar and John Doerr on my board are probably not happy.
It wasn't
not happy.
Sherman wasn't on our board. It was his partner Scott. Hunter also was on our board as well. Hunter Walk. And so when we had about $15 million left in the bank, that's when I think we shut down one city, and then we did a pretty big layoff as well throughout the company. And it was all about trying to get profitable. on the operations side, which like looking back at that was like kind of a dumb move, because like even if we were profitable, these businesses were not getting funded anymore.
That's what I was going to ask you. Yeah.
Yeah. It was like, okay, let's prove profitability, and then we're going to go back out to market and we're going to raise a Series C. And like these businesses just weren't getting funded. So like the option should have been like, let's either shut down, or let's try to build like a different product that actually like can probably work with our similar product, but like go
reversing course here is insane, right? Like what I mean is the difficulty of it, going from, the expectations alone of we've raised 50 million in our last round from John Doerr of Amazon.com fame, to we're shutting down cities, we're laying off some people and trying to get to profitability. First of all, takes enormous courage. And so, you should be proud of yourself for that, right?
Yep.
So what happens then?
So it doesn't work. We don't actually get to profitability in any of our markets, and we just continuously burn. We still had a pretty big team, so we continuously burn money. And then we had about $5 million left in the bank. And this was like my Hail Mary. This was like, okay, I'm going to basically, I'm like, I see something here. I think that we could get to profitability. Also, I see something in the warehousing space that I think we can do in an asset light way. I want to go build this new product. And also I want to prove that we can get to profitability with our current model. So it was kind of like, and I guess it was for me, I just didn't want to, I still wanted to prove that we get to profitability, and I didn't want to fully shut ship down, but I also knew that we needed to go in another direction. So this was a Hail Mary for me. I had to convince the board. This was me and a few other people that were like the amount of board meetings over like it was like every single day, because this was like a big change. We were going to have to lay off, I don't know, I think we ended up with like 10 people left in the company. And like I had to lay off like all of the executives had to roll off, and it was basically going to be me. It's going to be basically like a Series A company. And also I knew the board really didn't want to do this, because they're like, there's no fucking way this is going to work. But at the same time, like we had some traction with the product that we were building. We were getting towards profitability as well. So like all the goals that I set in place, I would say earlier on, like even when John Doerr stepped on our board, I was really like, okay, John Doerr, like I got this. I thought I was Uber. Like I was like,
no, right.
In my mind, I didn't say that to him. I was hopefully I was extremely polite, but it's like, don't worry, I got this. Like we're gonna do this.
It speaks to I think what everyone on this panel has felt at some point in their venture career,
right?
Which is, this is it. I'm good. I have nothing. Well, not like I have nothing left to learn, but this is happening. Maybe even I'm a billionaire. Like it is happening to me.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Joe?
For sure. Yeah, definitely. I got this. Get out of my way.
Yeah. Get out of my way. Oh, I love that. Okay.
Right.
Kevin, go on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I honestly didn't really take a lot of like the board meetings as seriously as I should have. And like really making sure that like we were hitting projections and all of this. And then it was like, I probably lost some credibility I definitely know I did with the board. And then I had to try to somehow gain it back over time. And we did get the San Francisco eventually was profitable, and we were building this new product that was getting traction. And then it was basically like, okay, we have $5 million left here. like, are you guys going to basically let me try to do this towards the end?
Sure.
And it was so many different, I had to present so many different things to try to convince them. I know they all wanted to probably roll off the board. Definitely John did. He didn't say that, obviously. Like, he was being as supportive as possible, and I commend him. Like, he didn't put anybody else in front, like another Kleiner, like junior member in the board and all of that. And I don't actually understand why. If I was him, I probably would, because it's like your time is worth a lot more. And so we tried that, and like, this was probably like one of the most fun times that I had at the company, was kind of like when we were such a small team again, and we kind of got a little bit less pressure from the board, because they probably didn't think that we were going to be able to do anything. And the operations in San Francisco, like, it was working better than ever before. We was profitable. Everything I said that I was going to be able to execute on, I was doing, and not me, but the team. And then we were building this product, and we had real fit with customers. Like, we were growing it at that time, like this, and this was compared to like what we had in San Francisco. Like, we were growing at like hundreds of percent a year. And it was really taking off. We were getting more leads, and what this product was kind of what turned into Airhouse, my next company,
but not the same company.
Not the same company. And it was different, because now as Joe with Joymode, like, we were actually storing people's stuff in our own warehouses, but the plan was not to continue that. It was, okay, we're going to figure out how to do this from a technology standpoint, and then we're going to go partner with other people. And so we were able to do it in a way to get a lot of companies to use us. Like, I think that we did still have a lot of credibility with the brand that we built. And like, this was an extension of it. We didn't launch this product publicly, but it was really taken off. And then we just got down to like, anybody that's ran out of money, like, it was down to like, we have 2 months left, 1 month left. And I was trying to fundraise for this company that had $63 million in the pref stack still. And like, we were our revenues, like, I don't know, at that time they were like probably, I don't know, like $6 or $7 million or something like that. But like, the growth of this new product has really taken off. And I actually almost did close one. I think it was Khosla that almost came in, because they're like, this could be a really big company if it actually worked. But we couldn't get it.
Not one of your investors today, though.
No. They focused on, I think, a lot of the other stuff. And then it was just like, okay, it's time to shut down the whole company. And
this is the last thing I want to ask you in the time that we have. First thing, I screenshotted the day that Shyp shut down. I took a screenshot of the tweet. It's still in my photos today. So first of all, what was that like? And my second question is there still some PTSD from this experience?
Yeah, there's definitely PTSD. I think that obviously running out of money, definitely PTSD. I right away, we started Airhouse like that next day when I was not involved in the company. I think I'm I've learned how important having good relationships with your board is. Before, like I mentioned, I was just kind of like, I know my shit. Like I was the one who created this, and like, what really is even the point of a board, honestly? Like, what is it?
Yeah, I'm so good.
Yeah. The shutting down process was fucking brutal, especially when we had so many leases. We had to try to unwind them. And like, I think we had people that were going to try to sue us, and like, because we couldn't pay them and all this stuff. I'd also recommend anybody that is running a company go with a PEO as far as a payroll provider. We actually we did our own payroll and workers' comp. And so they actually held like $500,000 aside for like, I think a year and a half. that we actually couldn't access. So we actually could have continued running the company on that. So that was like a really stupid decision on our part that I definitely did not know. So go with Rippling or go with whoever your favorite HR software company is. And then the winding down part was you could hire, we did what is called an ABC. So what is the ABC? What does ABC stand for?
Assignment by creditor.
Yeah. So
I
basically,
have to know that too.
yeah. So you basically hire a firm that takes over the company legally, allows the board to basically roll off, and they're now responsible to pay any debtors that you have and sell any assets that you do have. So ultimately, Shyp was sold. I don't know for how much. It could have been $10 million outcome. I wouldn't have known because I was way under the pref stack. So I wouldn't have known any of that, nor would I have wanted to know what it sold for. And then was everybody that was owed money, so contractors, whoever, get paid out and everything like that. But it didn't hit me, I think, emotionally until probably like 2 years into Airhouse. And then I started, because I started Airhouse right away. I also had to convince my wife that I'm not going to go work. I had like an offer from Shopify. Harley called me up. He's like, come on. He's basically it was kind of like build what you wanted to build at Airhouse here. And they actually have a competitor to our company now, which is funny.
Yeah.
So I had to basically convince, I'm not sure if I told my wife that or not, that I got that offer or not.
Well,
but I was just had so much to prove. And then I'm like,
sure.
I had people coming up to me. It's like, what are you going to do next as well? Like, are you going to do something next? I'm like, I can get like $1 million together and start something else. And so that's what I did. Then kind of 2 years into it, when things were starting to actually start working, that's when kind of all the mental health shit that I pushed down came to the surface. So like started having anxiety, panic attacks, like all of the stuff that was just kind of lingering came to the surface, and I had to deal with that. And I'm still dealing to it to a degree, but I can actually deal with today a lot better. But people don't really realize, like, I think your especially your first startup is your identity. And when you think that you are going to be the next Uber, and then your life comes crashing down, like that is just, I looked at that as like just a massive personal failure for me.
Yeah.
And so that's why I had to like prove everybody else wrong. Is like, fuck this was not a one-time thing. Like I'm gonna go, and the next company is gonna be like 10 times bigger.
Yeah.
And that can sound unhealthy, and it probably is, but that's kind of one of the major drivers for me outside of I love what I do. So yeah, that's kind of the tail end of
it's a great story, Kevin. I want to say thank you for your candor. It's not easy to talk about these things. I think it's going to be a great series.
Yes.
I learned something, and I can't wait to go through it with the other people on this panel. And honestly, you know, people want the sexy stories, but I think there's something to be said about these stories that are not sexy, and where you really see all the cracks and how the cracks occur and what happens in the aftermath and so on. So again, really appreciate you coming into the podium with regards to this story, and it's great to see you on the other side of it.
And I will end with one thing there, even though I told a lot of the stuff that probably a lot of people wouldn't have told. There's also a lot of stuff that I held back. And so there is another layer of like how shitty people can get, whether that's employees or I won't say anybody else, but like when things start to go wrong, when everybody thought things were going to go really right, there's a lot of bad actors. And I'm obviously not going to go and name names that's just doesn't suit anybody, but like there's some crazy shit that goes on when these companies go down that I just obviously can't mention publicly.
Yeah. Listener, read between the lines.
Yeah.
for your own conclusions or get Kevin drunk. Thank you for the time that you spent, and we'll see everybody next week.
Thanks for listening. Bye-bye.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, we keep it real and we bring you the facts. It's the Second Time Founders podcast. Talking tech news. The show is a must. Not some billionaire trying to sell you their book. Coming from a real place. Plenty ups and downs. Got some insights. Join the discussion now. We being honest and raw. Giving you real talk. We've been at the bottom and made it happen and much more. The Second Time Founders podcast. More building, less talk.